Go to Senator Husted from Ohio, since I'm just getting back into the committee.
Thank you, Chairwoman Capito. Welcome. Thanks for joining us today. Ohio is a state that has traditionally been part of our nation's manufacturing heritage and over time has had the legacy of some of the challenges of those industrial sites. We have had 38 Superfund sites, 31 of them have been addressed, but we have some that have been pending since 1993, one that's been pending since 1993. Many of these that have been pending over 15 years or over major aquifers, which citizens in our communities get their water. And whether it be a storm or a hurricane or just the constant fact that we get rain a lot and there's drainage and there's all kinds of things that happen to these sites over time and how it can affect people's quality of life, health. What can we do to speed this up? I'm interested in learning from all of you today, what action can we take? What action can the government take? What action can states take? And I want your best thoughts on how these a state like Ohio can do a better job on cleaning up these last 7 that are hanging out there. We'll start with you, Mr. Fox.
Sure. First of all, I've worked on the Painesville Superfund site, so I'm aware of what's going on in Ohio. I really think that the Superfund remedy selection process is completely broken, and I'll tell you why. I've done work under Superfund cleanups, RCRA cleanups, state voluntary cleanups, and there's really 3 issues. It really goes to what Mr. Riddell said. It's who's exposed, meaning who are the receptors, what contaminants are they exposed to, and how do we cut off those exposure pathways? Those are the 3 things. We've gotten bogged down in making the perfect the enemy of the good. And the good is for the remedy to be protective. It's always that, to make the remedy protective. But the process is so burdensome and cumbersome and takes so long and is so costly that we don't serve the cleanup.
Is that a law or a regulator problem?
That is the way that the National Contingency Plan, which is the process for selecting the remedy, is actually implemented. It's not the law, it's the way it's being implemented. And we can't have these be a science project. We want them to be technically sound. That's everybody's goal. But you can't have a process where you don't get a remedy selected, as you said, for 20 years. And so that has to change. Also, just to give you one example of this, I mentioned I worked at the Gowanus Canal. When a remedy was selected and they looked at the cost of implementing 2 CSO tanks, they thought that the remedy for that was going to cost $77 million for the city of New York. The current estimate for that is over $2 billion. And so that has to change too. A realistic cost of what the remedy is to achieve the cleanup goals has to be incorporated into this process.
And Mr. Riddell?
Well, I think Robert hit the key points. We've talked about them in our summaries, but I would say, you know, not knowing anything about these 7 sites, but the fact that they've been looked at and in the Superfund process for 20-plus years, my recommendation would be bring in a new team and audit all 7 and just see where they're at and how we can get to the, I'll use a football analogy now, how we can get to the end zone. There's got to be so much data on these sites that you can almost, you know, come up with, you know, what's the hurdles here, what are we waiting on? And I think sometimes there's issues on the community side where maybe there's hesitancy to move things forward, but the flip side of that is the community's been waiting for 20-plus years for something to happen, so that's why they're upset, and who can blame them? So I think a fresh set of eyes to look and audit these projects and hopefully could clear the way that, you know, this isn't a 30-year project, as Rob said. You know, there's a, you know, let's get to the end chapter, let's get to that end zone, and let's look at it. And my inclination would be that there's so much data out there that if there is some data gaps, or if there are data gaps that have to be completed, they're minor, and there's things that should be able to be done in relatively short order, just in my opinion, just because of the fact that these sites have been, you know, ping-ponged around for 30-some years. So
Gomez,
I think a new set of eyes would help audit that process.
So Senator, I would say because it's at the EPA regions where the work is taking place, so that you want to make sure that for Ohio, in Region 5, that they have the people they need to do the work. So I do agree that the remedy selection process takes a long time. It takes a long time, sometimes to list sites on the NPL, but then also to get them cleaned up. But you want to make sure that you've got the staff, the regional staff who are doing the work, like the remedial project manager, for example, for each of those sites.
Thank you. Chairwoman Capito, thank you.
I think